Joining me now is Chuck Todd, moderator of Meet the Press. Good morning, Chuck.
Good morning, Christy.
There is a lot of teacher frustration. Many educators questioning if they even want to stay in the profession. Do you think this will be the last straw for many? And how do we not lose the teachers who rightfully say, I don't want to have to worry about this?
You know, Christy, you bring up an interesting issue right now. I mean, teachers and public school administrators have been under siege over the last 3 or 4 years. You know, whether it's been this politicizing of textbooks in the classroom, or the pandemic, the fights about masks, no masks, the fights about remote school, non-remote school. You have people pulling their kids out of public schools. What does that do? That stars public schools of funding because of the way our funding system works. It works per pupil. So then all of a sudden you have fewer resources. Teachers already are underpaid. Then they have to buy their own supplies. And then they have to fear for their life potentially with the safety and security issue with guns. So you're absolutely right. I mean, look, I've got public educators in my family who just put in for their retirement at the first chance they got, okay? First chance they got to do it. And they love teaching kids. They hate what the parents and politicians have done to the system. So you're right. I think this is going to become a crisis that we are going to all have to face up to in about 2 years when we all realize the public school system is floundering because people have left it. Those with means have left it. Funding will dry up and good people will stop going into the profession. That's a death spiral if we're not careful.
Education Week tracks firearm-related injuries or deaths during school hours or at school-sponsored events, and they have found there have been 27 school shootings this year. You've got a local expert from our area on this morning, former DeKalb County Police Chief Cedric Alexander. What do you think he'll say are realistic solutions here? Is it red flag laws, teachers being armed one way in, one way out? I mean, we've heard a lot of suggestions, but what's realistic?
Well, I think that if you're asking what can pass Congress, a red flag law might be able to pass Congress. Maybe closing a loophole or two in the background check system. But the question is, even if you have a perfect response, and there's plenty of examples of near perfect responses, or take the Buffalo situation where they had an armed security guard who was a former cop who couldn't stop the, quote, good guy with a gun, couldn't stop the bad guy with a gun because the bad guy was better armed and better protected. And that's another, I think, the one question I have and what I plan to ask our experts here is, are we in a situation where a lot of police officers fear that they're outgunned? And so if we're in a situation where they fear that they can't survive a situation or neutralize a situation, well, then maybe we have a weapons problem, right? And will more police officers speak out about that? Many, you know, there's quite a few police leaders will speak out about the issue of too many guns in the streets. But the rank and file cops do not. It's something that the NRA politically is, I think, been very effective at trying to create a constituency out there. And so I think that if we have cops that basically are afraid to do their job because they think they're outgunned, then maybe we have a weapons issue in the public. There are a bunch of weapons here that a lot of people think don't belong in the public square. That doesn't mean you're infringing on somebody's constitutional rights. Not every gun should have to go through a background check or training, but a lot of them should.
Interesting conversation this morning. All right, Chuck, thank you. Meet the Press airs at 10, right after 11 Alive Weekend Morning News.